So one of the most asked questions I get is if a property has liens or judgments against it, or if the person who passed had liens or judgments against them, will those liens and judgments attach to me if I do a probate? The answer is no. The easiest way I can say it is this: if you didn't personally sign for the debt, you are not personally responsible for the debt. Now, the estate is, and that may have to get paid out before you can collect your full proceeds. But you will never be attached unless you personally signed for it. You will not be affected by that debt. Another question that I get often is if the property's in foreclosure. If they named me in the foreclosure, is this going to affect my credit? Is this going to affect my, is a judgment against the property going to affect me? Again, just like the question before about debts and liens and judgments, if you didn't sign for that mortgage personally, you don't owe that mortgage personally. Now the estate does and the property does. It is attached to the property. And if you don't pay it off, or if it isn't paid off, sure, the property will go into foreclosure and it'll get foreclosed. But even if you're named in the foreclosure, it is not against you personally. The reason the bank names anyone with interest in the property is they're trying to clear the title. And in order to do that, they've got to give anybody with any interest, that would include heirs, any interest in the property, you have the right to contest their claim. And that's why they name you, to give you that ability. They're not saying they're going to sue you. They're not saying they're going to put a judgment against you. The judgment they get at the end is for the claim on that property, not against you. It should not affect you whatsoever, even if it were to go into foreclosure, and even if you did a probate and got the property into your name. The thing that does happen when you do put it into your name, that's when responsibility does come, but it's also what's going to give you the ability to have the right to sell it, to catch it up, to do anything like that to maximize the benefit to you. So hopefully that answers your question. Another question I get is, if I'm an heir and I had a relative that was also an heir, but they passed, does that mean they're not an heir anymore? No, the answer is no. As long as they have heirs, as long as there is a line of succession, there will always, that side, your side, anyone that was an heir will always be an heir. And if they passed, their heirs will be an heir. Now, there are points when there is nobody left, then it could revert to you or to other to the group of heirs in that situation. But just because someone passes does not mean that their interest and their benefit has passed. If they were an heir, then their heirs are an heir. Another question I get asked is, let's say there's a property and you and another relative are the heirs to it. You want to sell the property, they don't. Are you stuck? The answer is actually no. Interestingly enough, the property, when you become an heir, when you are an heir, you are an heir to the percentage of heirship that you own. Your portion of the benefit is completely separate from the other person. Now, obviously, the question is, who would buy half a house? Well, the answer is you'd be surprised. There are some people out there that would. Now, obviously, it would be best if all parties can work together, but at least you know that you do have options. What exactly is unclaimed property? I'm sure you've driven around before and you've seen an abandoned house. Vacant, blighted, the grass is over a foot tall and it's looking in really bad shape. Well, why would someone abandon a perfectly good house? One of the biggest reasons, of course, is the passing of the owner. And in many cases, the property has been left vacant because maybe the heirs were not obvious to the public, or whether they were even aware that they were heirs. That's another factor that we'll address in another question. But the thing is that these abandoned or unclaimed properties are there where they're vacant and abandoned, but they are, and there is no obvious heir to the property. So you found a house, or you've come across a house that is vacant and abandoned, and when you looked it up, it was owned by an estate, someone who had passed away. And when you looked in, when you Googled or you looked up an obituary, there wasn't one. And when you actually went to find out, there were no kids and the person wasn't married. Well, what now? Well, believe it or not, there are dozens and dozens of levels of heirship. When someone passes, usually the property would go to the spouse or the children. But what happens when there isn't any? Well, actually, it goes up to the parents. And when it goes up to the parents, most of the time, of course, the parents would have predeceased them as well. Well, it goes to the parents' children, which would include the person's brothers and sisters. And if they had passed, their nieces and nephews. If that doesn't work, it goes up to the grandparents. And now the uncles and aunts and so on and so forth. It actually goes on and on and on. There's over 27 different levels of heirship. I always say there's only 7 levels of separation from Kevin Bacon. So maybe he's the heir of all of them. So how do we find heirs to unclaimed properties? Well, we use all the tools that have been made available to us. We use genealogical sites like Ancestry and MyHeritage. We use public records, and we're able to find historical data in deeds and mortgages and marriage certificates, censuses, in so many different ways. We even use various sites and search engines to be able to find obituaries and grave sites and different things like that. So bottom line, we use all the tools that are available to us to find the actual rightful heir to an unclaimed property. Is there a fee for initial consultation or for finding me? Absolutely not. We do not charge anyone for initial consultations, and we provide as much value as possible and education to assist you in making any decisions. Furthermore, we offer a very unique partnership option, in which case no upfront expenses will be assessed, whether it be in doing the genealogical work or even probating the property. And in some areas, we may even assist in rehabbing and selling the property for you or assisting you in financing it to keep it. So there are a lot of different options to working with us, and we would be happy to explore them with you.